When we think of how empires are built, we imagine kings leading thousands of soldiers across borders. We think of national flags and patriotic anthems. But what if I told you that the most powerful empire in the history of the world wasn't started by a government? What if I told you it was started by a small group of wealthy businessmen who just wanted to buy cheaper pepper? This is the mystery of the East India Company. In the year 1600, England was a small island nation that couldn't even afford to send its own trade expeditions around Africa. Yet, 250 years later, this single private company, with its own army, its own currency, and its own laws, ruled over 200 million people. How did a startup from London manage to hijack an entire subcontinent? And why did the British government eventually have to kill the very company that made them rich? Today, we go inside the archives to reveal the blueprint of a corporate conquest. It all began with a massive inconvenience. In the 1600s, Europe was obsessed with Indian spices and textiles, but getting them was expensive and dangerous. The British government was broke, so a group of rich investors made a pitch to Queen Elizabeth I. Who needs the government? We're rich. We'll pay for the ships, we'll take the risks, and we'll even pay you taxes. The Queen loved the idea. She gave them a royal charter, and the East India Company, EIC, was born. They originally wanted the Spice Islands in Indonesia, but the Dutch had already claimed that territory, so the British pivoted to India. Their first few decades were a disaster. When they tried to flex their muscles against the Mughal Empire, the most powerful state on earth at the time, it was like a tiny chihuahua trying to mug a fully grown armored bear. In a conflict known as Child's War, the Mughals utterly annihilated the EIC forces, blockaded their ports, and made the company officials beg for mercy on their knees. The emperor eventually forgave them, but he gave them a stern warning: behave like good boys. The EIC swallowed their pride, paid a massive fine, and went back to their fortified warehouses, which they claimed were just for protection. They realized they couldn't conquer India while it was strong, so they decided to wait. In 1707, the EIC got exactly what they were waiting for. The mighty Emperor Aurangzeb died. Without a strong central leader, India fractured. Every regional governor, or Nawab, started claiming they were in charge. The EIC's strategy instantly shifted from trade to divide and profit. They stopped being just merchants and started acting like the ultimate hired muscle. They approached local princes with a tempting offer. That guy over there has a lot of cannons. Wouldn't it be a shame if you didn't have even more? For a small fee, and maybe some land, my boys can help you out. They recruited local Indians and trained them in European military discipline. These soldiers were called sepoys. They were better organized, better trained, and always backed the side that promised the company the most tax revenue. The turning point came in Bengal, one of India's richest regions. The Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowla, was tired of the EIC refusing to pay taxes. In 1756, he marched on Kolkata and captured the British fort, leading to the infamous Black Hole of Kolkata incident. The British wanted revenge, but an officer named Robert Clive knew a secret. You don't have to win a war if you can buy the general. Clive made a backroom deal with the Nawab's commander-in-chief, Mir Jafar. The deal was simple: don't fight, and we'll make you the new Nawab. At the Battle of Plassey in 1757, Mir Jafar's troops stood perfectly still while the Nawab was defeated. With a puppet ruler in place, the EIC now controlled the wealth of Bengal. They weren't just trading anymore, they were taxing. They milked the region so hard to pay for their private wars and shareholder profits that it led to the devastating Bengal famine of 1770, which killed millions of people. Over the next century, the EIC perfected the, quote, subsidiary alliance. They would tell Indian rulers, you don't need to pay for an army anymore. We'll protect you with ours. All you have to do is give us money regularly. And if you miss a payment, we'll just take your land. This made Indian rulers completely dependent on the company. If a ruler died without a male heir, the EIC used something called the Doctrine of Lapse to simply declare the state theirs. They defeated the powerful Tipu Sultan in the south and the Marathas in central India. By the early 19th century, the EIC was no longer a company, it was a state. They even began destroying local Indian industries, like traditional hand-woven textiles, to ensure everyone had to buy British goods. But you can only push a nation so far. By 1857, the resentment was a powder keg, and the spark was a rifle cartridge. Rumors spread that the new cartridges were greased with cow and pig fat. To load the rifle, soldiers had to bite them open, an act that was deeply offensive to both Hindu and Muslim sepoys. When the British ignored their religious concerns, a sepoy named Mangal Pandey defied orders, becoming a symbol of resistance. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 spread like wildfire. It was a brutal, desperate war that nearly ended British rule in India. The British eventually crushed the rebellion, but it was a wake-up call for London. They realized the East India Company was too corrupt, too insensitive, and too prone to triggering massive uprisings. In 1858, the British government did the ultimate corporate takeover. They formally dissolved the East India Company. They took the company's army, its land, and its power, beginning the era of the British Raj, direct rule by the Crown. The East India Company started as a dream of wealthy merchants and ended as a cautionary tale of what happens when a private corporation is given the power of a god. It proved that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world isn't an invading army, it's a business plan with its own cannons. If you want to see more stories of history oversimplified, hit that subscribe button. And let us know in the comments, do you think a private company could ever take over a country today? Thanks for watching.